What's going on, guys? I am the Dank, and today I'm going to be reviewing WrestleMania 29. But my perspective of the review is coming from an actual in-person perspective. I was actually at the event in the stadium. It was unreal. I'll talk about all that later, but you're getting this review from a first-person perspective of someone who's actually at the event. Feel free to open up other browser windows and continue your browsing as you listen to the soothing sounds of my voice. But let's hop right into it. First, I want to give you like my overall thoughts and then kind of go down match by match how I felt about everything. This was the first WrestleMania I've ever been to. I've been to a lot of Raws and SmackDowns and all that stuff, but this was the first WrestleMania of mine, so this was a pretty big deal to me. Everything from the set pieces to the firework displays, everything live was it was unreal. It was incredible to see just the amount of effort that goes into putting on a WrestleMania. It was unbelievable to actually finally see it firsthand. But there were some things that I liked and some things that I didn't like about the show. The crowd was great the whole time. The live atmosphere was amazing. 10 times hotter than, any kind of Raw or SmackDown. But let's talk about the matches and let's talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that the Intercontinental Championship was on the pre-show. I mean, it's hard to try to tell people that this title matters when you put it on the pre-show of WrestleMania. You know what I mean? That kind of bothered me because see, I'm an old school fan, at heart. So I think back to the days when Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior and Shawn Michaels and people like that had the Intercontinental title, and it meant that you were the next guy. You know what I mean? It usually meant that if you have that title, it usually meant that you're next in line. Bret Hart, Steve Austin, to name a few more. And it really doesn't feel like that anymore. And I think most of you would probably agree with me. But Miz and Wade, they put on a good match. Miz won the title back. I'm all right with that. I'm still not completely sold on Miz as a good guy, but I'm coming around. I think I'm coming around. And as far as Wade goes, I wish they would do more with him because I think he could be really good if given the right opportunity. But it is what it is. Now on to the second match, The Shield versus Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show. I'm glad The Shield got the win. I think that's great for them. I'm loving what they're doing with The Shield. I wasn't in love with the end, to be honest. I can't necessarily say it was a shock. The audience seemed to kind of take it as a shock, at least the people that were sitting around me when Big Show knocked out Sheamus and Randy Orton. Everybody was like, why? I'm like, dude, he was just a heel like 2 days ago. And people were kind of all shocked about it, but I was like, okay, well, I kind of expected that. The scenario I kind of would have liked to see would be if that was Randy. If the Shield won the match and Randy was the one that kind of got pissed about it and, gave the other two an RKO, and that kind of started his heel turn, which I would love to see. He needs to be a bad guy again. Randy is just so good in that environment. But Shield got the win, and I'm cool with that, so we'll kind of see how that plays out on Raw later tonight. Up next, Ryback versus Mark Henry. I talked about this in a predictions podcast I did with a friend of mine, and I would have liked this match to have been more of like a gimmick kind of match. I kind of compared it to who was it? I think it was Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania 5 when they did like the pose down, because they didn't actually have an actual match that year. Something like that, not necessarily a pose down and not a weightlifting competition because they just did that, but something along the lines of more, I don't want to say fun. Fun's a bad word, but not a wrestling match. You know what I mean? I can't, the crowd was gone at this point. The crowd was just not into this match at all. Aside from the part where Ryback had Mark Henry on his shoulders, then the crowd was kind of into it, but it was kind of a head scratcher why Ryback took the loss. I wasn't really expecting that. I'm sure this feud will probably unfortunately continue for a little bit, so I'm sure Ryback will get his redemption sooner or later. I mean, overall as a match, it's exactly how you would expect it to be. Let's put it that way. Daniel Bryan and Kane versus Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston for the oh-so-relevant tag team titles. I will say this was a fun match to watch. The crowd was loving Ziggler, as always, as just about every crowd does, and if people don't know how I feel about Ziggler, I'm aggravated that he's not carrying the company right now. I mean, he should be, in my opinion, he should be getting pushed to the moon. And it just hasn't worked out that way. It really hasn't. And I was thinking, okay, they'll take the loss to Daniel Bryan and Kane, and, they'll walk off and people will forget that Ziggler was there, and then maybe, boom, come back out and cash in later. That didn't happen, but we'll get to that. The match was fun. It was fun to watch, and this is kind of another one of those matches that it is what it is. You know what I mean? Speaking of it is what it is, Chris Jericho versus Fandango. Now, as big of a fan of Jericho as I am, and I say just about all of his matches are great, this one was fairly subpar, I'd say. And that rides a lot on Fandango. This was his first major match. It's at WrestleMania. I mean, I'm sure Jericho was, had that whole match mapped out and everything, but Fandango just, I don't know. He really wasn't doing it for me. Obviously, the crowd was booing the absolute shit out of him, so he's doing something right. But typically, a Jericho match is a show stealer, and this one, it really wasn't close. And I'm upset. I'm disappointed to say that because I love Jericho's work. Again, another match that it is what it is. Fandango won, so obviously they're going to try to push him a little bit more. Then Diddy performed, and I went to the bathroom. And I came back, and it was Del Rio versus Swagger for the world title. Another match that I didn't have that much interest in, to be honest. I don't, something about, I like what Swagger's doing. I kind of like the whole thing with him and Zeb. I'm definitely just not the biggest fan of Del Rio as a face. I'm not completely sold on that. And I feel like the only reason this match worked, now think about it, the only reason this match really worked and Del Rio was as popular as he was going into this is because there's like this borderline racism going on with the whole Jack Swagger thing. And I feel like that's the only reason why this match worked. And I can't see Del Rio having another feud as a good guy. I don't really see that happening anymore. He's just not doing it for me as a good guy. But again, time will tell. The match was a little shorter than I expected, but I mean, things were getting cut, so I guess you can come to expect that. Now, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Every wrestling event that I go to, there's always that one guy. He was sitting directly behind me, of course. It's that guy that always tries to start his own chants that just make absolutely no sense in any atmosphere whatsoever. Like, I'm trying to think of chants he was doing. Like, who was it? When Fandango jumps onto the top rope to do his finisher, he stays in the ring and leaps over the ropes and hops on the top, kind of like RVD does. So this guy starts chanting RVD, like, no one is joining you. Few people probably even get the reference that you're making. Like, that's the kind of stuff he was doing all night. It was driving me crazy. I'm trying to remember what else he was chanting. It was literally the stupidest stuff, and no one was joining in any of his chants. It was, I don't know. It was driving me nuts. Anyway, to the match that I'd go as far as to say the only match I truly cared about, Undertaker versus CM Punk. By far the best match of the night. Everyone was so into this match in the entire stadium. Punk played his role perfectly. He was foaming at the mouth for the Undertaker. See, here's the thing that Punk did differently than most opponents. Most opponents go in facing the Undertaker, looking at him like this big, phenomenal creature and this destructive force that they're kind of scared of. Punk showed absolutely no signs of being afraid. He was like foaming at the mouth for the Undertaker to get in the ring, and just the way he played it was so perfect. And a lot of people, if you've followed my rants about wrestling on Twitter, you know that I'm a big Punk guy, and I think he is one of the best things to happen to professional wrestling in a very, very, very long time. And this match was fantastic. A big part of me wished that Punk got the win for a lot of reasons. I think that he you might not agree, and that's fine if you don't. I feel like he deserved it. After 400 and how many days as champion, you drop it to The Rock, who was a part-timer, and they kind of hand you The Undertaker as a consolation prize, which obviously is a huge deal to begin with, but he's carried the company on his back for a year and a half, and I felt like he kind of deserved to beat The Undertaker. And another thing I didn't like is that he didn't even take Undertaker like to his limit. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, like, they took the Undertaker to his absolute end and limit, and at the end of the match, he was done. And I felt like at the end of the Punk match, he just kind of got up and was like, yeah, I won again. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like Punk took him to the limit. Like, that's not the story that was told there. And I'm kind of disappointed in that. Because honestly, I would have loved to see Punk take that win and be the one. That would have been a huge shock. It would have been an amazing moment for this WrestleMania and for professional wrestling. Someone broke the streak, and it's CM Punk. And it just would have taken him to a whole nother level than he's already on. And I think that might have been an opportunity wasted. But still an incredible match, the best match of the night by far. Brock Lesnar, Triple H. Crowd was not as into it as you'd probably expect. There were some great spots, pretty brutal back and forth, and Triple H got the win. Fairly solid, pretty fun match. The crowd, like I said, was really not that into it, surprisingly. I mean, we just had Undertaker and CM Punk, so I guess you can't put the whole thing on Triple H and Brock, but the match was decent. It was a decent match. And finally, John Cena versus The Rock for the WWE title. Cena gets the win, I think, as we all expected. What can I say about this match? And that's what I was kind of worried about. I was thinking, okay, what could they possibly do differently? And the only thing that changed was the fact that the title was involved and who the winner was. I wasn't really a fan of their whole embrace at the end. I was really hoping Rock would hit him with a rock bottom or something. I don't know. I wasn't really a big fan of the whole, okay, let's be buddies now. Let's respect each other. I wasn't really a fan of that. But that wrapped up the night. So here's some notes, some mental notes that I made to myself. It seems like WrestleMania nowadays is missing something. This card was fairly lackluster. They put all of their time and effort into Rock Cena. Undertaker Punk got a few weeks of TV time for the build-up, and then Brock Triple H, and that was pretty much it. The rest of the card just felt so thrown together, and don't get me wrong, as a live spectacle, this WrestleMania was awesome. As far as a wrestling card, it was kind of decent, honestly. And a funny thing about this WrestleMania is that there was one match that had a stipulation. One. And it was Brock and Triple H, no holds barred, with Triple H's career on the line, which wasn't even emphasized that much. And the rest of the matches were regular matches. The matches didn't feel like this is a WrestleMania card. If I was watching this at home, I would probably be a lot more disappointed in this event. I'm being completely honest. I would be a lot more disappointed than I actually am. I'm not that disappointed because it was my first WrestleMania. I was there live. I finally got to experience that atmosphere and that energy, and that was phenomenal. But if I was sitting at home watching this, I don't know. I don't think I'd be as happy about it. The lack of big matches, the lack of big moments. I mean, there was great moments in the Taker and Punk match. Punk doing old school on the Undertaker was sick. Everyone just was going crazy for that. But there wasn't. The matches didn't have a big WrestleMania feel. They didn't, and I think they need to cut the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and put it back on WrestleMania. WrestleMania it's missing that. For the past couple WrestleManias that didn't have Money in the Bank, it hasn't felt right. I don't know if any of you guys might agree with that, but Money in the Bank was made for WrestleMania, and they kind of just took it and watered it down and gave people 2 briefcases. Like, I don't know, it just means so much more when it's on the grandest stage of them all. And now, if you put Money in the Bank on WrestleMania, you don't have to worry about throwing Dolph Ziggler into a stupid-ass tag team match. You don't have to worry about putting Kofi Kingston on commentary as the pre-show. You don't have to worry about cutting Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes and Brodus Clay. Well, not like that matters, but you like now all of a sudden you have a way to put 8 superstars that you didn't know what the hell to do with into a match that is actually important, instead of throwing people into these situations that they probably shouldn't be in. Think about a Money in the Bank match with people that weren't on WrestleMania. Damian Sandow, Cody Rhodes, Kofi Kingston, Antonio Cesaro. Zack Ryder would have got a huge ovation for it being in New Jersey and New York. You could throw friggin' Santino in there. You get 2 more people, and boom, you got a Money in the Bank match. And it would have added so much more to this WrestleMania, because this WrestleMania needed a big moment and it didn't happen. John Cena winning the title back, as much as WWE wants you to believe that that's a big moment, it's not. John Cena winning back the WWE title it's welcome back to 2010. You know, that's all it is. It's just this circle. They need to start building more talent. They need to. You can't put everything on John Cena year after year. It's not going to work forever. So that's that. Those are my thoughts on the current state of WWE and WrestleMania itself. Like I said, I had an amazing time being a live spectator. But overall, this pay-per-view could have been a lot better. The card wasn't as great as it could be. And I'm hoping for something bigger next year, to be honest. I think it'd be nice to see Money in the Bank scrapped as its own pay-per-view and put back into WrestleMania. And by this time next year, I'd like to see people like Dolph Ziggler and Cody Rhodes in positions to be a little more of headliners instead of getting cut or thrown into a random tag team match. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please leave a thumbs up if you did. I appreciate you guys being here, and drop a subscribe, because sometimes I do this wrestling stuff. I step aside from the gameplay for a little bit. I like to be kind of well-rounded. I like to do more than one thing. So if you enjoy this wrestling stuff, hit me up on Twitter at I'mTheDank. I'd love to interact with you guys, and subscribe now to this channel if you have not already. Thank you guys for watching. I'm the Dank, and I'll see you soon.